Hey, welcome to Get and Keep Biz, the video learning series. This one's about strategic pricing. My name's Tim McMahon. First of all, strategic pricing is a process. It's a strategy. It's a strategy for gathering the value that we've created. It's based on three things. First of all, it must be value-based, it must be proactive, and it must be profit-driven. That's really kind of what we set out to do. For context, this is where we are on the map. We've already gone through the product, the brand, how we take it to market, and how we create brand demand through communication. Now we're going to figure out how we're going to capture the value that we've established. That's called optimal pricing or strategic pricing. Let's think about three different components here of pricing. First of all, in the exchange between buyer and seller, three things might be occurring. One is a barter, where there's no dollars exchanged, but goods are exchanged for goods or services and such. Secondly, the amount paid is not always the list or quoted price because of discounts, allowances, and rebates. The third component to consider is growing consumer resistance to a sticker price has really given rise to a whole new slurry of new kinds of things like special fees, surcharges, and add-on charges, particularly important in the airline business where they want to keep the sticker price very, very low and competitive, and then on the backside load up the consumer with the hidden fees, so to speak. Let's look at pricing of a car. Here's a car you may not necessarily be driving in your lifetime. This is a Bugatti Veyron 16.4 Grand Sport Vitesse. No, I do not have one. I'm probably not going to buy one. But if we look at this little string here, we look at the final price not being necessarily what maybe the sticker is, but this final price is the list price minus incentives and allowances. In other words, automobile companies will give you lots of different bonuses and benefits and so forth, like free financing or something like that, or no cash down kind of a thing, to improve the odds of you or incentivizing you to buy the car. In this case, the Bugatti Veyron price is at $2.5 million. Incentives, they're going to get $500,000 in incentives, and they'll give you some allowance as well as $50,000. So that brings the price down to $1.95. Now you add on the extras. This is where they get it back. Extras like $5,000 for this and $50,000 for paint. Oh yeah, diamond paint, $50,000. Luxury tax that you're going to have to pay for this vehicle is $378,640. You finally end up the price back up to $2.383640. Take that one home to the spouse and see how they feel about you spending that kind of money for your new weekend ride. But essentially what we're laying out there is the way pricing exists a lot of times in things like vehicles. And when we think about the scenarios, let's think about three different items. A new car, we look at the final price being the list price. No, the list price minus incentives and allowances plus extra fees. That's where we actually get to the final price. In the case of a college degree, the final price, well, it's published tuition. And then again, we're going to have scholarship, financial aid, and discounts and those sorts of things that you might take as credits, and then we're going to add back those fees like activities, books, or room and board, and that sort of thing. Thirdly, let's think about a wholesale situation where the final price is really equal to the list price minus any kinds of quantity discount, cash discount, seasonal discount, functional, etc., trade discounts, and then adding back those things like penalties for late payments. So that's the way we get to price, and price value is the way we think of the equation from a consumer's point of view. A price is often used to indicate value, right? That's what we're saying when we say capture value through price. Value equals the perceived benefits divided by the price. So the relationship shows that for a given price, as perceived benefits increase, value increases, right? Profit equals the total revenue minus the total cost. It's that total revenue then becomes the unit price. It's $6 for a 600, so we have $3,600 minus the fixed cost and the variable cost. So now we end up with the way we get to a profit relationship. Profit's important because if we are trying to create value, then we would hope to drive a higher profit than the generic item because people will pay more for it, and we will be able to price it in a situation where we'll be able to make more profit because of the fixed cost not being that much different for the value that we actually add. So when we think about managing price and value, it's always two kinds of things: a product-led experience, or it's product to cost, to price, to value, to customers, or customer-led or consumer-led from customers to values, to prices, to cost, to products. Follow me? So one case, the customer is going to drive it. The other, the product is going to drive it. So when we think about managing price and value, we have this little triangle here. three-point pyramid, or whatever you want to call it, where we look at our strategic objectives, are the perceived customer value. We want to maximize that. We want to cover our costs, and we want to offset any competitive intrusion. So the product, in this case, is the means to deliver the major portion of the value proposition. That's the way we do it, whether it's the goods, the services, the bundled, the augmented benefits, whatever we've talked about in the past, those sorts of things play in. The promotion is the way that we are going to actually communicate or convey information about the value. And sometimes this can be met with competitive resistance. Distribution provides the value through time and place and convenience. Actually, part of the advantage of Amazon is the beautiful part of distribution being right to your door and in a relatively short period of time. Service then adds those additional kinds of things that we would pile on top of the core product, what Silk is called the augmented product. So pricing at three levels, we think about it's beneficial to think of pricing at the level of the industry, at the level of the product market, and at the transaction, so we can see how that progresses. The industry price level is the broadest view of pricing, where managers really need to understand supply, demand, cost, what the market will bear. Companies that excel at this level avoid unnecessary downward pressure on prices, and often emerge, they're the ones that are going to be the industry price leaders. They understand that the best way to get to the best price is through the lowest cost. In case of product market strategy level, this primary issue is at the second level of pricing, and it is about how to deal with the competition. So the companies must understand how customers perceive all of the offerings on the market, and most particularly, which attributes actually exist in the competitive offerings. The third one is transaction, which the focus of transaction pricing is to decide the exact price for each transaction, starting with the list price and determining which discounts, allowances, and so forth. That little stream we took you through a couple of slides past. For a majority of companies, the management of transaction pricing is really the most detailed, time-consuming, system-sensitive, and energy-intensive task involved in gaining a price advantage. Looks something like this at the end of the day, what we might call a waterfall. And essentially, you can study this on the deck later, but when we get to a pocket price, which is actually what somebody's going to pay for it out of their pocket, versus what the standard list price is, they're not always the same. And as you'll see this thing waterfall down, I have outlaid for you all of the individual pieces of pie that someone's going to take out of this particular pricing structure to arrive at the final pocket price. So what we call this is the waterfall, and that is essentially the pocket price percentage of the standard list price. Where is it actually going to lay out in terms of what the cost of the goods are compared to what they're actually priced at? So we measure it based on product, promotion, distribution, and service. Factors affecting price, there's a ton of them, right? You can go through this list at a later time, but a lot of things like switching costs, for example. People don't want to walk away from a brand, or convenience and fairness and those sorts of things. Again, we go back to the original price-value equation. That's perceived benefits over price. Let's take a pizza, for example. For a given price, as perceived benefits increase, value increases. So a large pizza should cost more than a medium, fresh more than frozen. Price is really more about understanding the approaches and how we get to price. And that means, for example, demand-oriented pricing considers factors underlying cost, taste, and preferences more than simply cost, profit, and competition. We will have on two sides of the spectrum. On one side, skimming, which is setting a high initial price and taking as much possible profit because customers are less sensitive to the pricing. And on the far side, then we're looking at penetration, which is setting a low initial price on a new product to appeal to gain a large mass market immediately. So that's basically the two ends of the spectrum, and we'll play with that from time to time. If we think about these examples, Duracell, that would be a prestige situation because Duracell is better. As a matter of fact, we have two brands there, Duracell Ultra and Energizer E2. Energizer E2 introduced its battery at a significantly lower price, even though it was almost identical in terms of value delivered as the Duracell Ultra, and the product failed miserably because people actually take a cue from what they believe the value of the product is based on the price, and E2 was too low valued and too low priced. Therefore, they did not think it was a good battery. E2 was delivered to the market, repositioned, priced more competitively to Duracell, and won a fair market share. Everybody remembers the odd-even pricing of JCPenney's when they tried to break that odd-even pricing. In other words, $10.99 or $9.99 as opposed to $10 or $11. JCPenney said, let's round it off and make it simple for people. failed miserably. People like to do bargain hunting. McDonald's does a thing or Arby's or McDonald's and all these fast feeders. They adjust offering to the target price point. In other words, they're going to give you whatever they can that will make a dollar meal. And that's really the best way that they can convey value to you. Another way to do that, and particularly it's done in the restaurant business, is to bundle the marketing of 2 or more items at one price. The margin is what matters here, and it matters that you get a decent margin, but you take a fair amount of dollars as opposed to reducing the dollar take and trying to preserve a large margin. Finally, there's yield management, which is the traditional airline pricing model, and that can be very confounding. We'll talk about that at a later time. I want to let you study these at your leisure. But basically, we think about different ways of establishing price. There might be a standard markup pricing. Everybody in this industry adds 10%, or everybody in this industry adds 15%. Or there might be a cost plus pricing model, which says whatever it costs, I'm going to add 10%, and then that'll be your final cost or your final price as a customer. We also look at these sorts of balancing of revenues and costs in the target profit pricing, in the target ROS pricing, and target ROI pricing. All 3 of those you can study at a later date. Kind of lay out the notion of what we're trying to get at and what the firm is trying to reach when it does its pricing. Think about something like this: customary pricing when a market is mature and tradition prevails. Distribution or competitive factors dictate price. Vending machines. Part of the problem with vending machines is I can't charge $1.98. I have to charge $2, or I have to charge $2.25, or I have to round it off so that people can actually pay. New vending machines have a lot more of these kind of debit card capabilities, so any number will work. There's also this notion over here of above, at, or below market pricing. We see 3 different brands of fitness there: Curves, low price, Bally, middle, and then, of course, the top end, the Canyon Ranch. This will actually be kind of at, above, or below market pricing. This is an interesting sequence that you can look at and study in greater detail. But essentially what happens here is that Red Bull wants to be able to get to a level of pricing that really is deserving of what they offer. And if you look at their total dollar sales market share versus their unit market volume share, you can see that maybe are they properly priced? Yes, they are. They're actually well priced, because that little box on the right end there says premium price brand results for Rockstar. It is not exactly performing well, and yet on the far side of the chart for Red Bull, from 2009 to 2010, they actually improved their pricing results because of improved communication, improved demand. So there's your key definitions. That's the runoff on pricing. Talk to you soon.